Good morning, everybody. Welcome back in Sunday morning coffee only on Past the Wire TV. I am Big Race Jim with a new set of glasses. Back after a couple of weeks. Been a bit busy. Wasn't a lot to talk about the last couple of weeks, in my opinion. So I took some time to rest, recharge on a Sunday mornings, and be ready to go for Pennsylvania Derby Day at Parx. And I thought there was some interesting things that happened around the country yesterday in in the racing world. So let's dive in. Let's talk about that. Um, let's start with the Gallant Bob at Parx and Barnes, who looked like the best horse on paper. And then the last quarter mile of that race looked like the best horse on the track. He just was so far back and didn't start his move until it was way too late and left him so much to do, which was disappointing. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. Jockeys have the hardest job in sports. Their lives are on the line. Injury is imminent at any moment. So I do my best, and I feel like I do a pretty good job of not criticizing riders or their rides or their tactics. All right, I've never been on the back of a horse. I don't know what it's like. But yesterday, a head scratcher of a ride on Barnes by Tyler Gaffalione. Not sure why he was so far back, and he looked almost too casual. Maybe perhaps looked like he felt like he had enough horse, but once everybody else started to rev up, it even still seemed like going around that far turn, getting to the top of the stretch, Tyler just wasn't asking him for anything. At least that's how it seemed to me in real time. Um, and of course, a horse like that, once you ask him, he responds, and he responded in a big way, but just left himself a little bit too much to do and couldn't get there. So that was disappointing to see Barnes probably run the best race, or at least look the strongest in that race, and not be able to get the victory. So a bit of a head scratcher there. I don't know if anybody else had saw it differently. You can let me know, but from my eyes, it looked like um, just was waiting a little bit too long to ask the horse, and once he finally did, left him a little bit too much work to do to be able to get there. Uh, Clicquot in the Cotillion, super impressive. Uh, nice hookup there for Brendan Walsh and Irad, and I thought that horse looked really good, and you could see like there's a lot of jostling if you go back and watch the replay, and I don't have it handy, unfortunately. But if you go back and watch that replay, a lot of action going into that first turn, and then going around the far turn, the four. Who was on the four in there? Because they really got the worst of that race. Oh, Indy Bay, yeah. Um, I mean, it looked like that horse was in a decent Tyler Gaffalione again. It looked like that horse was in a decent spot along the inside, and got pinched, and basically got pulled up, and that was the race for her. But I thought Clicquot had a nice stalking trip the entire time, applied pressure throughout, and was able to wear down this uh, dry powder. And I was impressed. I was impressed with Clicquot, and I had a nice little win bet on her, so that always makes everything look a lot nicer. John actually gave Clicquot out on tracking trips. So if you're not a tracking trips subscriber, interested to hear why. But there you go. That was your monthly subscription right there, along with all the other bits of information and other winners that John put out on there yesterday that I'll talk about here in the next couple of minutes as well. Pennsylvania Derby, I thought was, we finally saw Baeza put it all together, and kudos to this horse, right? Just hasn't ducked the competition at all this year. Has danced every dance and finally gets a grade one that he was probably very well deserving of, and pretty straightforward race, I thought. um you know he did his typical Baeza thing, coming from the back, and just kind of overpowered everybody. Goal oriented, I thought, ran a bang up race as well. I thought he was fine. Magnitude ran a heck of a lot better in here than he did in the Travers, so that was nice to see him rebound. But Baeza gets that grade one, and then he's going to have to face all the tough customers in the Breeders' Cup Classic, assuming that's where he lands. But that race, man, the Breeders' Cup Classic is shaping up to be just loaded, and that'll be a lot of fun to watch when they're all in there. But Baeza, typical race, coming from out of it and wearing everybody down, and really no match for him. He was very impressive through the stretch and drew off to win. Another horse that I was very impressed with yesterday at um, Churchill Downs was Immersive, and I forget the name of the stakes race. If you give me a second, I can pull it up. Uh, it was it the Seneca Overnight Stakes? Yes, it was the Seneca Overnight Stakes, and I was super impressed with Immersive because she looked like she was just hanging out on the front. Nobody was going to contend with her, and as soon as she got a little bit of pressure and actually gave up the lead briefly to this Ivory and Ebony, but she dug in and battled back, and they were pretty tight, head to head, neck to neck through the entire stretch. And I thought she did a great job to kind of battle back, regain the lead, and and be able to win that race. And again, you look for these horses, and we talk about it a lot during the Kentucky Derby Trail, all those prep races. Like, you're looking for horses that are not afraid to fight on and battle back. And I think it's key, especially with fillies, to see the ones that like to dig in and 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 battle. And usually, a lot of times when you see horses get past like that, they wilt. And I thought it was super impressive of Immersive to rebound like that and be able to uh, fight on and get the victory. And that's only her third start this year, her first win this year. And sure, maybe, I mean, it's her best career best Equibase speed figure. I'm looking at it right now. Um, perhaps a soft spot, right? After she came out of the coaching club American Oaks, was four horses, and Scottish Lassie just kind of blew everybody away that day. So who knows? But it felt like Immersive was returning to the form that she had last year when she dominated from start to finish throughout the year and ended up winning the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. So we'll see where she lands next. Um, but ultra impressive, I thought, from Immersive yesterday. Just quick little update. You know, I feel like I talk about this a lot, and it's tough to actually like follow your own advice. But I did yesterday. Played a couple of different races. I focused on win bets and a pick three at Churchill that was mostly chalk, but I felt like it was going to be mostly chalk. So I did a 2 by 1 for it was a $2 pick three, so it cost me $4, and it returned like 16.50. Right. If you go back and look, I think it was races 7, 8, and 9, maybe. Let's see. Yeah, 5, 6, 7, whatever, in the middle of the card. And yeah, was I nibbling? Sure, but those three favorites in that race looked to be superior. There was Smoking Wicked, and I added another horse in there that finished second. That was a little bit longer odds, so that would have been nice. But it was Smoking Wicked, Immersive, and Ragtime, and the three of them looked superior to everybody else in those races. So I think it's okay if you go favorite, 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 single, 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 and you know quadruple your quadruple your money. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's a winning ticket, and you're not diminishing any equity throughout that sequence. Um, if you wanted to play it for $100, then your winnings would have been that much more. So, you know, and I'm guilty of this too, thinking like, okay, there are you don't like to bet the favorites. I talk like that sometimes, right? I don't like to bet the favorites, try to be cute, whatever. But sometimes there's sequences where the favorites jump off the page, and I think we can either skip the sequence or we can try and take advantage of it in a super skinny way, like pick three, 2 by 1 by 1, um, and see if we can squeeze out a little bit of a profit. And yesterday I didn't play all that much cash wise, but I had a 30% ROI, which no, 70% ROI, which was I'll take. I'll take. So, and that was a key. That Clicquot winning, and I think I might have had another small win bet in there on one of those favorites. But again, if something like that jumps out at you, I don't think there's anything wrong with playing a ticket that way. Three favorites, just to try and eke out a profit and move forward, especially when you're not adding a bunch of other horses that is diminishing the value of your ticket. So little wagering advice from me. Take it or leave it. All right, we'll take a quick pause. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show um, on Sunday morning coffee. Pass the Wire TV, Big Race Gym, AmWager, Shore Bet Coffee, Pleasant Acres. You're going to hear from a bunch of them right now. Stick with us. Go. Verifying. I think that was my Kentucky Derby pick a couple of years ago when he ran in there. I really liked his bluegrass. Um, let's let's look him up real quick. I know this is going to be boring TV, but now I'm interested. Because there were a couple of um, decent wins in there, right? And that must have been his maiden there. Second in the Champagne, sixth in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, fourth in the Rebel, second in the Bluegrass, 16th in the Derby, second in the Matt Winn, won the Indiana Derby, second in the Allen Jerkins, and then wrapped up his career with a fifth place finish in the Perryville. Always liked this horse. Always felt like he tried his heart out every time. And really, the Derby and yeah, you take out his Derby. I mean, what a pretty decent career. Grade 3 winner, um, Grade 1 placed multiple times at the route distance and at the sprint. Um, Good horse, good little horse. I always liked, I always liked Verifying. So um, glad we get to partner with Pleasant Acres and get to run that commercial. So shout out Verifying. Hopefully the stud career is going well. All right, I had an update on NYRA bets in New Jersey. I don't know if you guys caught it. I had an article that I wrote for Blood Horse a couple of weeks ago now, talking about NYRA bets in New Jersey. And I got a comment from NYRA. I reached out to the Racing Commission in New Jersey, who then sent me over to the Attorney General's office. I guess the AG's office oversees all the sports betting and Racing Commission and all of that. And we're at a standstill. So in the article, it said that NYRA needs to test the tote and alongside with what is it, United Tote that they use, and there needs to be account representatives in New Jersey, and um, and that's what we're waiting for. The rub to me was that we're we've been waiting since like December of last year was when they, you know, started to move this process along. I mean, even before that, really. Let's see, because I think they made this announcement, right? Wasn't Dennis Drazen out there like in June, like last summer? Um, he was out there last summer when they made this announcement, July 24. Yeah, so over a year ago. They were supposed to have they announced that this was coming. And then it seemed like at a racing commission meeting in December of last year, they moved the ball down the field a little bit, and then it's just been at a bit of a standstill. Um, and why, each of them said what they said. I was thinking about it from the horse player perspective, right? Like you're in New Jersey, and like using my dad as an example, like he's the target audience, and he's still going to the OTB to put his bets in. Shout out favorites Route One Woodbridge. Um, that's where he's going on the weekends to place his bets. He's like, admittedly pretty old school, right? But still, like he's going, getting in the car, driving down Route 1, well, driving up Route 1, going north to get to the favorites OTB, places bets, and maybe he stays there and watches a race or two, but then he heads home. And if he wins, then he has to go back. And sure, I'm sure you're thinking like, well, why doesn't he just download 4 NJ bets? And he could, right? He very well could. Um, but perhaps he doesn't like that app for whatever reason. And I don't know that this is the case. I'm just using him as an example. But perhaps he doesn't like that app or doesn't want to use that specific app. Maybe he would like the rewards and promotions better from NYRA bets, but he can't, or from Twin Spires, which would theoretically also come online once once NYRA Bets takes over as the ADW provider. I don't know if that's the technical term, but basically they would be the main licensee, and then they can sub-license out to all of these other apps. So theoretically, you would end up getting NYRA Bets, Twin Spires, First Bet. Um, I don't know. What are the other ones? There's a bunch now. DK Horse. And you'd have access to all of these different apps. And maybe there would be one that would prevent him from having to or wanting to get into the car to go to the OTB. So hopefully a resolution soon. Just in case nobody saw that article. Hopefully you read it. On Blood Horse a couple of weeks ago. Um, we'll see where this story progresses, but that is where we're at. The tote needs to be tested. Someone needs to be an account representative. I don't know how many, 1, 2, 10, um, needs to be brought in, trained, and we'll see what happens from there. But in the meantime, those New Jersey horse players heard about it in July 24, and it's September of 25, still waiting. That is horse racing in a nutshell. Anyway, have a great week. Thanks for bearing with us. as we're getting back into the swing of things. Keeneland's coming up. We got John's big Breeders' Cup seminar. I'm going to see if I can add this file in here. Let's see if I can find the right one, and we'll take you guys out with John's Breeders' Cup seminar that's coming up. You don't want to miss that one. A little bit of a change this year. Everything's going to be right at your fingertips. No super long 3-4 hour seminar live thing. Everything will be right available to you. And let's see. I'll just play it because it's not going in here.
For the Past the Wire annual seminar, we're going to change things up. Why? For you. Everything I cover in the seminars in a clear, concise PDF you can download, print, read off your device, anything you like. Everything, and I mean everything that we cover in the seminars right at your fingertips. Nobody does it better. And if that's not enough, if you join and ride with me, a private, members-only Q&A where you can ask anything about the Breeders' Cup, get answers, and sharpen your play. Secure your spot at PastTheWire.com and try and make this your best Breeders' Cup ever. I'm surely going to try and make it mine.
There you go. Those are the details, right from the man himself. Hopefully you sign up for that. Tracking trips has been a good play every weekend for the last couple. Helped me tremendously yesterday. So it's definitely PastTheWire.com. Sign up there. And we'll catch you guys next week. We appreciate it. Sunday morning coffee, Past the Wire TV. I'm Big Race Jim. Shout out to AmWager, Corbett Coffee, and Pleasant Acres. And we will see you guys next week.
This year, for the Past the Wire annual seminar, we're going to change things up. Why? For you. Everything I cover in the seminars in a clear, concise PDF you can download, print, read off your device, anything you like. Everything, and I mean everything that we cover in the seminars right at your fingertips. Nobody does it better. And if that's not enough, if you join and ride with me, a private, members-only Q&A where you can ask anything about the Breeders' Cup, get answers, and sharpen your play. Secure your spot at PastTheWire.com and try and make this your best Breeders' Cup ever. I'm surely going to try and make it mine.
Here comes journalism, here comes sovereignty, and they square off, heading to the final front. Sovereignty wins the Derby!
You're watching Past the Wire TV. Hit that like button and subscribe to Past the Wire TV. Nobody does it better.